This is Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's one of the very last countries in the world to be discovered. It's believed that around 700 years ago, boats originating from Polynesia arrived on New Zealand shores. These people made the land their home and were to become what we now know as the Maoris. They were hunters and fishermen, carvers and weavers, singers and dancers. They lived with their whānau, their extended family, and belonged to an iwi, their tribe. Like any country, there were times of peace and times of war. They had their own way of life, their traditions and practices. In 1642, Dutch explorer Abel Tasman arrived at New Zealand and made contact with the native people. But it wasn't until 100 years later, when Captain James Cook arrived, that the European people really began to move in. They brought with them their advanced technology, knowledge and skills, introducing the Maori people to a new way of life. And it wasn't long before the number of European settlers living in New Zealand increased rapidly. In 1831, there were less than 1,000. 50 years later, that number had grown to 500,000. Now, fast forward a few hundred years and we arrive to today. New Zealand has become a successful and proud country. But as it has developed under European influence, the Maori people, culture and traditions has been pushed to the side. We still see a lot of the Maori influence around. Many of our cities and towns, rivers and mountains and animals have Maori names. The Maori tribes, their iwis, are still with us. So where do we go from here? Do we leave the Maori people to maintain and continue culture and tradition on their own? Or do we New Zealand as a whole embrace and own for ourselves the Maori way of life and make it shine like the New Zealand gem it is? Thank you so much for watching, and please check out the What's Timata podcast. It's my journey exploring the Maori way of life and attempting to learn the language. And if you have anything to add, please leave a comment. Tēnā koe, haere rā. Thank you and goodbye.